What's up everyone? I hope you're all doing well. So as you probably know, I have been a bit less active over the past few days as our last update was right there when Bitcoin was around $64,000. So before we dive into today's price action, let's quickly recap what happened since our last update. So if you remember, I was actually bearish on Bitcoin and expecting lower prices, but first I wanted to see a move towards our resistance at $64,500 and then see a rejection to the downside. So what ended up happening is that we got a drop to the downside before reaching our resistance level. And when we saw the drop, I did update our Discord, and what I said was that the top was pretty clearly in my opinion. So if I just find the update, as you can see right there, was that the top is pretty clearly in my opinion, and any bounce was a short opportunity tomorrow, so on the 2nd of October. So we got into the 2nd of October, I updated the Discord again, and I saw one major area around $62,200. So if I just make the image a bit bigger, as you can see, I identified this resistance area again around $62,200. And what I wanted to see was a move towards our resistance and then rejection to the downside. So in the end, it did take a bit longer to reach our resistance as we got a drop first, but then we got the move higher again into our resistance. I updated the Discord again and said that the resistance was reached and I wanted to see a rejection to the downside. So that's why I opened a short position. We saw the drop, as you can see right there, and I implemented the take profit one on my short position at $60,400. And right after this is when I had to travel, which is why again I've been a bit less active over the past few days. But in any case, again I updated the Discord and I outlined two scenarios. The first scenario, if I make the image bigger, was a move higher towards this resistance at $63,700. So what I wanted to see was a fill of this hourly imbalance and then rejection to the downside. And the second scenario was a break of that resistance and a move towards $68,100. And what ended up happening, if I go over to the charts, we got a move towards our resistance, so $63,700, and from there, Bitcoin is now moving to the downside. So basically what's happening is that Bitcoin is following my first scenario, which was again a rise, a fill of the imbalance, and then a reversal to the downside. And personally, of course, I haven't traded this move as I wasn't available. So, with all of that said, what do I expect next? Do I still expect lower prices as outlined in this scenario, or should you now expect higher prices to come? And that's what I want to talk about in this update. The first thing I want to note is that if you look at the imbalances on the 4-hour chart, most of the major imbalances have been filled. So we had this first candle, which I outlined in my scenario, which was completely filled. And then we have the second imbalance, which was pretty much also filled on this move before we saw the reversal to the downside. So as most of the imbalances have been filled, I do see a lot of weakness on the charts and I do expect lower prices to come on Bitcoin. On top of that, if I go on the 1-hour chart as well, you can see that on this drop to the downside, we don't have any unfilled imbalance except for this candle, which comes in at $61,700. So with that said again, I am bearish on Bitcoin and expecting lower prices. But as usual, we cannot be blindly bearish and short every single move to the upside. We have to outline support and resistance levels. If I start off with the support levels, I'm only focused on one area. And this should be, if you take the anchored VWAP from this low, it comes in around $59,400. And then on top of that, if you take the volume profile of the range, as you can see, the point of control comes in as confluence with the anchored VWAP. So that's why, in my opinion, this area around pretty much $59,000 is pretty interesting in my opinion. And if we see a move to the downside to this area, so if we see something like this, and then we see a reaction, in my opinion, this could offer a decent long position for a bounce a bit higher back towards this 4-hour candle. So that's mainly what I'm looking for to the downside. But if we see a loss of this level, I would like to see a move towards this imbalance on the 4-hour chart that I've been talking about for a while at $54,500. So that's why, at least in my view, this support level, again around $59,000, is pretty important. And then to the upside, it's pretty simple in my opinion. If we go back on the 1 hour chart, as I said, we have this imbalance which comes in at $61,700. And if Bitcoin is able to move higher and break these highs, then at this point I would expect much higher prices and probably a move towards this 4 hour imbalance at $65,600. But at this point, as I said, I'm pretty bearish on Bitcoin. I see a lot of weakness and I do expect lower prices. So with all of this in mind, if I had to make a prediction right now on the charts, it would be, in my opinion, that we see a drop towards our support area. So we see a drop towards $59,000. From there, we see a bounce back to the upside towards $61,700. And from there, I would like to see a much bigger rejection. And as I said, a move towards this imbalance that I've been talking about for a while at $54,500. And honestly, that was mainly it for this update. As usual, I keep it very simple. So quick recap, to the downside, I see one major support area around $59,000. If we do lose this level, I would expect to move towards $54,000. And then to the upside, if I go on the 1 hour chart, we have this hourly imbalance. However, if Bitcoin is able to move higher and break these highs, then at this point I would expect to move towards the high $65,000. So I hope you guys enjoyed this update, and as usual, if you have any questions, I'm available inside the Discord. So see you soon everyone, and good luck.